It's early.
It's early, and there's a hurricane coming. Unfortunately for our friends on the East Coast, it's not looking too good for them. East Coast of Florida, and then all the way up the eastern seaboard. Hopefully,
they won't be fishing today.
Well, they probably can get the morning in, but it's gonna go downhill fast from there. But so hopefully everybody stays safe over there. I think what's gonna happen here is I think what the forecast is dry. It's just gonna get a little bit windy, but not horrible. But I just feel bad for the East Coast. East Coast always seems to get it each year.
Yes, they do.
But we're fortunate over here in Tampa Bay, knock on wood, and we're gonna go out before this low pressure starts to come in. I'm hoping that the bite will go off. We had the chance to fish yesterday, and the bite was early, so that's why Chad and I decided to come out early. It's just now hit 6 o'clock. We usually get at the office at 6. So we're gonna go and catch bait. I'm gonna answer some questions that we get about catching bait. So hang in there. Let's go catch them up.
Let's do it.
Okay, we got onto the flat. We got out here pretty early. So what we're relying on is not sight, but sound. As Chad makes all the sound in the world. But what we're listening for is little flicks on the water, like somebody's taking their finger and flicking the water. And I know I won't be able to pick it up because it's not loud enough, but literally there's flicking all around us. We're surrounded. So hopefully we can get bait relatively pretty quick, because we want to get on that early morning bite. Because we want to get as much fishing time in as possible before that tide turns and rips out. You thought it ripped yesterday, Chad? It's ripping even harder today.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna see what we can get going. But a lot of people, let me premise this real quick. A lot of people ask us about the tropical fish food. What we use is the Purina tropical fish food 33%. There's 33% and there's 45%. 45% has more oil in it, but I haven't found a need for it pretty much. So we just basically use the 33%, and we buy 50 pound bags at a time. During the winter time, we actually buy 100 pounds at a time. And the reason why we do that is because during the winter time, the bait will stay a lot lower in the water column, so it takes a lot more to get them up and active. So what we're going to do right now is start chumming for bait and see what we can find. And it's still flicking all around us. So anyway, let's get the bait catching. Chad and I decided to free line first thing this morning. We've already caught some nice grouper. We're using hand-sized pinfish, and he's using dead bait. He just lost a nice snapper at the boat. Get him, Chad.
That's a snapper too.
Another snapper?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. No. Grouper. Oh, like a snapper. You go to snapper school?
Ooh, that was ugly. All right, Chad, kind of give people an explanation. I know we've talked about this before, but we get a lot of questions about it. Now that you're using your conventional, first, why are you using your conventional?
For me, it's more about a little bit more on feel, and I like to have a little extra backbone in the rod to be able to try to turn the fish. The line's the same, so it's going to break just as easily, but with this method, you just kind of send out an inch or so at a time, and when you feel the line take off or jump, you just close the lever and start cranking.
Now tell the people that you don't go to a tight line.
Yeah, you don't ever want the line to be tight. You always want to keep slacking the line. That allows that bait to drift down naturally. And the moment it comes taut, like realistically with me setting the hook, I probably should have brought it up and re-dropped it, because a lot of times the fish will spook off of that bait and won't come back and eat it. But every time we drop a bait in the water, followed up with a half a dozen of other dead baits with it to kind of make it look natural, like it's dropping down with the rest of the baits. And that's pretty much the key. I mean, you want it to just drift down just like all the other baits without any weight, because if it doesn't look like that, they're going to totally ignore it.
I put him on camera. Oh, and he catches a fish. Look at that. Sometimes you never know that they're there.
He was there a while.
He was there a while. He has it in his throat. So that's some of the main things right there, is what we do when we're freelining in shallow water. And what I consider shallow water is we're sitting on a ledge and we're coming up the ledge, and the boat is in 28 feet of water. We swing 28 to 30. So we're coming up the ledge. So what happens is sometimes that bait gets to the bottom and it stays on the bottom, and that fish will suck it in and not move. So sometimes you don't even know that fish is on there, and then you start to reel in and that fish is on there. So sometimes you don't even feel the bite or see the bite, and the fish grabs it and it's just sitting there with it. So if you're doing this type of fishing, freelining, that's one of the main things to look for. Is if you feel that you might be on the bottom, then you might want to just slowly pull up to see if you've got a fish on there. Because if you let out enough line, you know that typically if you count it, like, you know, your arm strokes, you know where you get to a certain level where you should be getting bit. So that's just another tip that I wanted to share with you. But what he does is he just there, and then he drops some chum into the water, and then he lets enough line out to where he can get it to where he's comfortable, and then he switches back to this, and then he's freelining.
Nope.
Snap. Oh, I thought you were, I was like, are you throwing him back?
Throwing them back in a cooler. Almost high in the column too.
That one took out drag. God bless America. GoPro, start recording.
Snapper.
That's a snapper. GoPro
Snapper and a pass crab.
He hit it like a freight train, but he's not very big. Chad, I thought you said this is where the big grouper were.
They were before. I think he sore lipped them all.
Fish that big can fight that hard. It still amazes me. That's why I love fishing for these things, for these grouper and snapper. They just fight so hard. Even though we're using a bigger rod doing this, if we were using our smaller rods, we probably wouldn't get these fish up. We were just about to move because I thought that we may have worn out this spot, but he just catches one. Of course he does. So maybe we won't move just yet. Because sometimes what happens is if you sit in a spot and you break off quite a bit like we've done, it spooks those fish. And I put up my pole, I was getting ready to stop the trolling motor and move, and boom, he catches one. So sometimes you got to be patient, sometimes you got to know when to cut it and go.
Today we don't know.
Well, we never know. But we do know that the tide has picked up and the chum is starting to go farther and farther away from the boat. What I've had to do is I had to go to a 1/2 ounce stewie jig. We're in 18 feet of water to get the bait down. The pinfish weren't wanting to go down, so I had to go to a 1/2 ounce, and it seems to have done the job. Oh! Well, that 1/2 ounce is definitely getting it down there. And as soon as it gets down there, it's fish on. Let's see if Chad can replicate what I just did, but he's having a hard time right now. Well, what we've got here, folks, is we've actually got the mangrove snapper right on the surface, and they're real finicky. They're eating, but the problem is they're just not the size that we're looking for. They're decent size. They're keepers. They're about 12 to 14 inches, but not typically the size of the fish that we like to keep. We like to try to keep 16 and above, and so there's so many snapper behind the boat, it's not even funny. But we're about to leave because it's just, there's a lot of small ones and we want bigger ones. So this tide is starting to slow down. So what we're gonna do is probably go get set up for the slowdown of the tide and start chumming in a different area and see if we can't get some bigger snapper going. A lot of people ask us about what kind of rod and reels that we use. And right now I'm using a 7-foot heavy action hyper inshore rod, 15 to 30 pounds. And then my reel is a size 4,000. It's actually I'm trying it out right now to see if I'm going to source it or not. It's I've been using it for what, about a month now? Yeah, about a month now, and it's held up really well. I'll give you a quick shot of it in just a second, but Chad uses a Boca 4,000? Yeah, 40 and a 7-foot heavy action rod, and I use 8-pound braided line and he uses 10-pound braided line, and we both use 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now the braided line and the fluorocarbon, along with the Ohiro hyper rod, you can find those on our website at tampabayfishingchannel.com, along with our jigs. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by this stupid dolphin. But that's the size of gear that we like to use, and I'll go over our conventional in a little bit. Well, folks, we've had a great day. We caught our limit of snapper, we caught a keeper grouper, lost a couple of big ones as usual. First thing we did this morning was start freelining, and then we moved out and we just caught fish pretty much everywhere we went. We caught fish. It was a good day. This tide is really now starting to move, so the trolling motor is about to give up the ghost. She's been running hard for about 8 hours, so we're just I can tell she's getting ready to give up because we're sliding ever so slowly. But anyway, it's been a great day. Again, if you need anything from our website, hit us up at tampabayfishingchannel.com, and we've got everything available that we use today. Primarily, we used everything from 3/8 ounce swing jigs to 3/4 ounce swing jigs. I did use 1 1/4 for a little bit, but it was a little bit too heavy for the tide today. So we kind of downsized everything, and we were using the, let me see, I was using the 3/4 inch Stewie jig, or 3/4 ounce Stewie jig, and Chad gets frustrated with him because he loves to set the hook. I've learned how to use these pretty good. But what we were doing was just hooking the pinfish and the whitebait. We were hooking the whitebait in the belly and the pinfish through the bottom of the lips, through the top. And that's how they were eating them today. They pretty much ate everything from dead bait when we were freelining it, freelining pinfish. We caught them on whitebait, everything. So it was a good day. But this tide is really starting to rip now. So these fish are going to shut down. And but again, Chad, do you have anything to add?
No, that spot where the snapper were
up in the surface, right on the surface, yeah, that spot was cool. Actually, that was a new spot that we found, and we were sitting there fishing, and I said to Chad, I said, man, there's something down there. And then all of a sudden, I caught a small grouper, and all these snapper followed it up, and then before we knew it, the whole back of the boat was covered with snapper. We were throwing out chummers, live ones, and they were busting them right on the surface. So it's cool to find new spots like that. Unfortunately, we didn't get any big snapper out of there, but they were still 12 to 14 inches. So a lot of people would love to catch snapper like that. We just wanted to get bigger, and we did. We got some really nice snapper today. But again, thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it. Fish more, catch more, and we'll catch you on the flip side.